All right, for our next match, we have Albert Coccia versus Jonathan Lopez. This is a 145-pound match under all of our same arena rules. Albert Coccia competing alongside his brother, who is also has a match here today. So these competitors are, looks like Albert's going to immediately sit to guard and potentially try and get a quick triangle there. Jonathan doing a really good job trying to keep his frame away. Albert's throwing up some quick looks at, looking at a K-guard entry here. Looks like he's looking for a short toe hold. Jonathan looking for a toe hold of his own. We already have some quick back and forth action here. So it looks like from this rotational pressure that Albert has a much tighter toe hold than Jonathan does, but Jonathan's doing a really good job at framing that out, and it looks like he has mostly escaped all of the danger from that toe hold while he continues to search for his own. What both competitors need to do here is they're going for their toe holds, is they need to bring the toes towards their competitor's back. As they do that, they're going to create some real braking pressure in the ankle. And you can see here, Jonathan feels the pressure, but he's doing a really good job framing that out and just kind of pushing back with his foot and creating enough space to free that up. Now we have a leg lock exchange here. We have Jonathan looking to potentially lock up a heel hook. He has the knee line is just on the edge of the outside, mostly escaped. Albert kind of looking to create his own pressure here. It's going to be tough to finish heel hook without the leg isolated though. Albert's coming up on top now. He's putting on some pressure here. Looks like he's going to try and flatten Jonathan out and potentially work a pass, but Jonathan has that bear trap there, where he's kind of got a hold of that toe, the feet of Albert, and he uses that to enter into a heel hook attack on the other side, but Albert does a really good job of just turning out, clearing the knee line, and just keeping himself safe in these positions. You can tell both of these guys have good experience. We have an Aoki lock attempt and turn into a straight foot lock. All right. Looks like Albert gets the finish by a straight ankle lock in round one. So, as with all of our matches, we're going to have a best of three. So, right now, Jonathan really needs to put the pressure on and, first of all, make sure he doesn't get submitted in this round. But it's going to be hard to win if he doesn't mount some major offense in this one. And he's already starting to flatten out Albert. Looks like he was potentially looking for a head and arm triangle, whether he was going to use that to pass or go for the submission. But Albert immediately recognized that. Albert has gotten back to his open guard here. Jonathan looking for a potential body lock pass and trying to flatten Albert out. Isolating his arm while trying to climb up and keep good chest-to-chest pressure, keep Albert's back flat on the mat, and Jonathan's going to try and walk up and free that far leg so that way he can get into a good tight side control or maybe even pass directly into mount here. But Albert's done a really good job at his guard recovery and just circling his legs back inside. So we have this sort of open half guard here. Albert thinking about a Kimura there. Jonathan keeping everything in tight and then immediately working to staple that arm down, keep good chest-to-chest pressure here. So he's got Albert flattened out, and he's going to try and keep pressure up high. Albert is going to utilize that, though, and potentially try and throw up a triangle, but Jonathan's all over that. Jonathan now is back into this open butterfly guard. Albert looking to switch that up, and he does not want that butterfly hook at this moment. It looks like Jonathan's going to try and, again, flatten Albert out, utilize that top heavy pressure. Looks like he's going for Nogi Ezekiel choke here. And, all right, we had a sweep off of that. One of the disadvantages of that is that you do leave no hands open for basing. And Albert immediately drops back onto a leg lock. Jonathan spinning around. Jonathan here, all he needs to do is free that leg, and then he's going to have a really good look at Albert's back here. So, yep, there you go. Jonathan frees the leg. He's already starting to work to isolate this arm and isolate this hand, and he's already advancing in terms of the hand fighting position and in doing that, he's making a threat that he could throw those hooks in at any point. But Albert does a really good job. Graham being out, turning right in, and conceding bottom side control, but that's much better than having someone on your back, especially in a submission-only type rule set. Jonathan, thinking about that Americana, steps over. He manages to step all the way over into a mounted triangle. Throws the legs over. He has not locked the triangle up yet, but he has a good tight grip here. And Albert passes the head. Jonathan looks for a omoplata. Albert immediately pulling out and already starting to look to attack a potential leg of his own. Jonathan's going to utilize that though to smash Albert down and try and get a head and arm triangle, but Albert's doing a good job of keeping his left arm down and getting that around the head. So that takes away all the threat of the choke, but it does give Jonathan a solid pass, and he's got a real good solid side control here on the edge of the cage as the round is counting down. Albert here trying to create some frames. Push off. Jonathan really wants to get a submission to close out this round and make it 1-1 going into round 3. Albert is doing a really good job though at staying alive in these bad positions. We haven't seen him too much. We've got an Americana potential, and Albert does a really good job rolling right into that submission, creating some space and rolling out. Jonathan is all over it though. He's immediately turning into the back. Albert trying to roll in for a knee bar. Jonathan keeping that pressure though. Jonathan's going to need to flatten Albert out. He's going to need to try and get more chest to chest pressure. If he lets Albert have the space to turn away from the cage, he's going to potentially be able to put him into a bad spot in terms of maybe a knee bar or just create any sort of leg lock opportunity. They break disengagement here, and Jonathan immediately starts to go into some passing sequences. Albert really trying to utilize that space to invert and potentially turn in on a leg, since he had some success with that the last round. Jonathan, again, doing a good job keeping chest-to-chest pressure, trying to flatten Albert out, and he is going to try and work into a dominant position and potentially get a finish here as the round counts down. And there we go. That's the end of round 2. So after 2 rounds, we have Albert up 1-0. Jonathan is going to need to get a submission in this round if he wants to advance this to a 4th round and have any potential at winning this match. Albert wins either with no submission in this round or by getting a submission, which would put him at 2-0. So we're right back here again though. We have Albert on the bottom and Jonathan on top. Jonathan has him pressed up against the cage. Now this is, again, the cage adds a whole unique factor and makes it really difficult for the competitor on the bottom to initiate their standard guard offenses, and really makes it troublesome for them to try and create space and open up movement. It's going to allow them to mount a lot of their standard offensive maneuvers. It also is just plain uncomfortable. But Albert there trying to throw up an omoplata, switches to a triangle here. Jonathan immediately pulls that head right out. Now at this point we're almost 12 minutes into the action, and both competitors have definitely sweat a lot at this point, and once those rash guards and the heads and arms and everything gets wet, it becomes a lot harder to lock up those submissions. Albert using a good squeeze on the head to just kind of roll and turn out. Jonathan though coming out the back, and he's gonna potentially throw this for a head and arm triangle here. So Jonathan throwing in that head and arm triangle. He was looking at either the back or the head and arm triangle and was waiting to see what Albert's reaction was. And we got the tap. All right, so Jonathan with a head and arm triangle in round 3. Albert with the submission in round 1. That means we're going to round 4. This is, again, the unlimited overtime round. So this round only ends with a competitor submitting, which means we will have a truly definitive winner. We have Jonathan, again, doing a really good job from these half guard positions at just keeping Albert's shoulders flat on the ground, going chest to chest, and just pinning and then starting to work his passes from there, constantly threatening some Nogi Ezekiels and utilizing that. But Albert does a really good bridge into it. Jonathan uses it though to slide right into a solid back control. Immediately starts isolating the hand and is starting to dig underneath the chin here. Albert's gonna, he's a little high. Albert's gonna probably want to try and pop up to his toes, but yeah, see, there you go. Jonathan flattens him out, and this is gonna be really dangerous for Albert here. It's gonna be really tough for Albert to defend truly from here without turning. Yeah, there you go. He's gonna have to turn in that way. Now Jonathan had some success with the head and arm triangle from round 3. We're gonna see if he's gonna try and emulate that again here, but Jonathan does a good job bringing that hand inside and stopping the threat of that choke. But we do have Jonathan here in a very dominant position. He has stapled one of Albert's arms, and he is going to try and work to step over either completely. All right, he goes back to mount, but he is going to continue to just wear Albert down, try and work his arms through. Albert has done a really good job at escaping positions and creating scrambles and starting to try and enter into submissions of his own. So he's going to be really looking here to try and pop, try and pop Jonathan up and see if he can work anything. But Jonathan's doing a really good job staying in this dominant position, wearing Albert out, and just putting on that grueling pressure. Yeah, we can see here Albert trying to just turn, create some space, maybe put a leg back into a half guard. Meanwhile, yeah, Jonathan is just doing a really good job here keeping him flat. Now Albert has both feet on the cage, which could create a potential opportunity for him to explode out, but Jonathan here locking up that same head and arm triangle, isolating, and he's going to get the tap. All right, so we are going to have our winner via 2 head and arm triangles in round 3 and round 4, Jonathan Lopez.